Heyo, and welcome back to the Thewazchronicle. In this chronicle, we should be looking at manifest destiny. How did manifest destiny cause mass genocide? So you might be asking yourself, what is manifest destiny and why is it so important? And that will be covered in the following chronicle. So just before we go into the chronicle, I want you to look at this quote. It says, "Nothing is more dangerous than an idea when it's the only one we have." It's by Emile Chatier. What do you think he's trying to get at? Well, why would he put forward this notion that an idea is so powerful? And that will be answered in the following chronicle. Think carefully. Look, racism isn't something you're born with, it's something that's taught. See, I've spoken about push and pull factors, things that draw people to the West and push people away from the East, and quite possibly the biggest factor would definitely have to be manifest destiny, because this ideal underpinned a lot of factors that push people west or pull them to the West. So, if you look at the idea of manifest destiny, it was extremely disturbing, and don't get me wrong, it was highly effective. See, a lot of European settlers actually thought that it was their right and duty to govern and occupy the entirety of North America. They'd done it in Europe, they'd colonized other countries, so why not America? And this thought process carried over, especially when they came to conquer the Americas. Now, they also saw it as a God-given right. They actually took extracts from the Bible and said that, listen, God told us that we should take over this area from coast to coast. A good example of the power of manifest destiny would be John Fermont. John Fermont was someone who adamantly believed in manifest destiny. He even went so far as publishing expeditions that he went on, and he went on numerous expeditions to show other settlers how to get across the Oregon Trail. He pretty much mapped out the Oregon Trail, which meant that manifest destiny was his guiding light. He felt that he was doing God's work in occupying the land. See, the largest role was played by the government. The government actually supported the idea of manifest destiny, and they helped coin the phrase. And eventually, John O'Sullivan, newspaper editor, actually coined the phrase manifest destiny to describe the government policy towards conquering all the land that the Native Americans own. So it's analysis time. Let's study the following two images that you're going to see. What do they tell us about manifest destiny? Why are they so important and how are they effective? This is an 1872 painting by a man named John Gass, and it's meant to show progress. The woman is supposed to be progress. She's holding a school book and she's putting down telegraph. But really, if you switched it around, and you could say that's an angel, and she's holding a holy Bible, and she's putting down obviously means to conquer the West. And also you can see the Native Americans running away, you can see the homesteaders, you can see also the railroad in the background, you can see how it's light on one side wherever the angel's going, and on the other side you can see the darkness, and how you can see the Native Americans fleeing in fear. Obviously this is a clear example of how manifest destiny impacted westward expansion, and I think Gass kind of captures it quite nicely. Don't get me wrong, it's meant to represent something else, but it does portray manifest destiny quite well. The second painting is actually a mural, and it clearly depicts westward expansion and manifest destiny. You can see all the settlers and the explorers, and in the far distance some of the mountain men pointing towards the west, and everyone's ushering people to go west. This was a clear sign of propaganda where people were encouraged to move west. You can see families, you can see people on horses, you can even see people going along over valleys and hills. The whole aim was to push people towards the west and make it clear to them that obviously if they go west, there's a better life for them there. No one's pointing east, everything's heading westward so that it can encourage westward expansion. And the underpinning factor of that obviously clearly was manifest destiny, the idea that they had to claim all the land. So now you know what manifest destiny is. Why was manifest destiny so important? What was the significance of it? And the answer to that is simple. Manifest destiny was a bit like nationalism or a religion. It's something that's deeply rooted into the white settlers' mindsets. They actually believed in it wholeheartedly, and no changing their minds. See, they actually believed that it was God's will and the outcome of them taking all the land was inevitable, and they had no sympathy towards the Native Americans at all. A crystal clear example of this is the US government. When they passed the Indian Appropriation Act and they put the Native Americans onto reservations, they thought it was their right to do so. And also, if you think about it carefully, the white settlers actually thought they were superior to the Native Americans and they could own the land. It was theirs to take. Remember, the Native Americans didn't believe they owned any land to begin with, and that was a massive conflict in interest. The best way you can sum it up is the idea that the white European race believed that they'd been given a mission by God to civilize America. So the question remains, was manifest destiny a racist ideology? And the honest answer to that is yes, it was deeply racist. See, they saw the Native Americans almost as subhuman. So just how racist was manifest destiny? Let's look at our racist chart. Let's start with diet racism. It's when people are racist, but they're obviously careful about what they say and who they say it to, and they're quite passive in what they say. Maybe they'll move a seat and so on. Then you've got blackface, where people decide to colour their face and think it's really fun and it's hilarious that they can turn around and mock other cultures. And then it moves on to segregate other people. We want only our colour in our society, or separating people by saying only a certain colour will drink from here. Then you've got idiots like Donald Trump who decide to stoke up this idea and rhetoric of us versus them, which pretty much promotes racism. Then you got your outright racists like the KKK who decide to go out and murder people just based on the colour of the skin. Then you've got actual laws such as the Israeli nation state law, which pretty much strips the Arab citizens of their rights in Israel, which is kind of strange because it runs parallel to the Nazi law, which is called the Reich Law on Citizenship. It's passed as part of the Nuremberg laws in 1935, and what that did was it stripped the Jews of their citizenship rights, and later on we all know what the Nazis did. So we take the racism up a notch. Now we've got the Nazi party, the uber granddads of the racist parties. They carried out the Holocaust, which killed 6 million Jews and 5 million others, and during this time they massacred people indiscriminately. But I think the title of most racist would have to go to slavery, which was carried out over 400 years or more and killed millions of people. However, sitting right at the top of the pile would have to be manifest destiny. Why? The answer is simple. Manifest destiny caused a lot of other things. For example, this ideology led to people like the KKK and even Trump, allegedly. And you've got things like segregation and slavery. A lot of these things came about because of this ideal that there was a superior race. Again, the same with the Holocaust and so on and so forth. So you can actually argue that manifest destiny underpinned a lot of it, and it's hit right at the top. Obviously some other racist incidents have not been covered, but I just want to show you the scale of racism so you understand what I'm trying to get at. So as any true historian, we need to balance the argument. And in this case, I'm going to tell you that it's not just the fact that, oh, it was from the time so people were racist and it was fine. It's not that, because there were people who were white who were absolutely amazing. You got Abraham Lincoln, for example, who was the 16th president of the United States, and in 1865 he decides at the end of the Civil War to abolish slavery. Now, he doesn't have to do that. Obviously some people argue he had other reasons to do it. The fact is, he still did it, and if he believed in the same thing, he wouldn't have done it. So that's a clear example of that. Then you've got a guy named John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy is an absolutely amazing guy, because John F. Kennedy is assassinated for trying to make sure that blacks are treated equally to the whites. So it isn't a case of it was all doom and gloom and it was only the whites that were evil. It wasn't like that. There was good and bad. So let's look at Kennedy in a little more depth. He worked alongside Martin Luther King to make sure that civil rights were achieved and there was equality between black and whites. Now the thing is, when he's shot, after that, in 1964, the Civil Rights Act is passed, and when the Civil Rights Act is passed, it means that blacks get equality with whites to an extent. So the whole point of me explaining Manifest Destiny to you was to explain the idea that racism is wrong. Obviously it was from the time, and it's something that should be left in the time. Now, if you don't agree, obviously I can't change your mind on that, but the fact is, everyone's human and everyone should be treated with respect. By seeing the Native Americans as an inferior race, they felt it was their personal duty to assimilate the Indians and make them think the way that the European settlers did, to farm, to settle down, to own land. These were things that they thought they had to force upon these uncivilized Native Americans. So what were the consequences of Manifest Destiny? See, it could be argued that Manifest Destiny underpinned everything that happened in the American West, from the start all the way to the end of the frontier. See, it was a driving force of mass migration to the West. See, the settlers saw the Native Americans as inferior, and this led to continued conflict and massive wars such as the Indian Wars. Also, you could argue that the government passing legislation such as the Indian Appropriation Act, Permanent Indemnity, and so on and so forth, and constantly breaking it, all was underpinned by Manifest Destiny. They had that in mind to begin with. Also, the railroad, mining towns, cattle industry, farming industry, reservations, numerous wars, everything can be underpinned by the idea that Manifest Destiny meant that it was okay to do this. It was the right thing to do because we're taking land that belongs to us. See, the mindset being promoted by the government that they were superior and also having God-given right to do this, it spread ignorance like wildfire. all the Native Americans were treated badly because the settlers actually believed this idea. See, common people who would otherwise got along with the Plains Indians had turned into a collective race with a mission to get rid of the Indians and settle that land by any means necessary, and that led to mass amounts of conflict and misunderstanding. And I come back to the quote that I mentioned at the start by Emile Chartier: nothing is more dangerous than an idea when it's the only one we have. That is a super important quote, and it sums up manifest destiny to a T. What do you think he meant? What did Chartier actually say, and what was he trying to get across? And was manifest destiny important? And if so, why do you think it was so important? Do you think that manifest destiny actually helped in the genocide of the Native Americans? If so, why? Leave your comments below. Hey, you reached the end of another chronicle, and as always, thank you for listening. If you do get a moment, please do leave a like, comment if there's anything you want me to change, please do share the video, and as always, if you could subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Have a lovely day, and as always, I'll see you in the next chronicle. Bye bye.